Should William Nylander get a long look alongside Austin Matthews in preseason? You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morisuti. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Monarch Money. This Monarch Money, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. What's happening, Dave? How are you feeling on a Monday?
Feeling pretty good.
Fantastic. And it was a nice weekend, especially for golf fans in the Toronto area. I don't know if you had a chance to get over to the Canadian Open at all. I know you're a big golf guy. You're in the Mississauga area, but to see Brooke Henderson come through at the Canadian Open was pretty nice to see. Tommy Fleetwood finally gets it done, wins the jug. So a really fun weekend in golf, and we got some Maple Leafs out speaking. A little media tour happening right now. We heard from Austin Matthews last week when he was in Toronto. I think Matthew Nyes had a chance to speak with the Toronto Sun recently. There's some comments there, and over the weekend out in Europe for the European media tour, William Nylander had his chance to speak with the media, and we got some comments there, and it really sparked a debate about what exactly is going to happen next season with William Nylander. And I guess it's kind of interesting, Dave. Like, why isn't Nylander getting more consideration to move up and take Marner's role and have Matthews and Nylander and Nyes as like one big super line? Why isn't that getting enough? Like, will they get a look at that, do you think? Like, why isn't that being talked about enough as a possibility?
I'm wondering if it's just because we haven't seen it for over a big period, right? We just kind of default put Nylander with Tavares, these last few years, and we just kind of think the status quo would kind of stay the same. Do I necessarily agree with it? No, I think you should be open to different possibilities, and yeah, I understand you don't want to load up the top line. I get that sentiment, but it's not like you don't have options to consider different things, right? And we've seen Matthews play with Nylander before. It provides you an opportunity also to kind of see if other players can maybe not have to handle top line minutes if they're not capable of handling those top line minutes. And like, you're paying Nylander to be a top line player,
right?
Might as well let yourself see if he's show that he's capable. Let's see if he is. We know he is. Let's let him actually kind of do it over a consistent basis.
Yeah, and we haven't seen it because we've had Mitch Marner in the fold, right? Yeah. So like, without Marner though, I think that opens up the possibility for a Matthews Nylander duo. And it's not like we haven't seen it before. Like, there's been many times throughout the careers of both these players that they've played alongside each other. Usually, it's when things aren't going right with the team and they need to mix it up to just get something different, get a different look. We'll see Nylander and Marner swap. And then Matthews and Nylander play together, Marner and Tavares play together, and that goes for an extended period of time, but it usually, finds its way back. But now that Marner's no longer in the picture, like it kind of opens up the opportunity to give it more of a longer look with Nylander up top. Like, you take a look at his numbers, him and Austin Matthews together, pretty good. Like, when they're on the ice together, 64% of the goals scored are from the Toronto Maple Leafs side. Like, that's pretty solid. And, you even look at expected goals, 54% expected goals with Austin Matthews and William Nylander on the ice together. So, usually good things are happening offensively when those two are on the ice, and you would expect it. They're very dominant offensive players. But we've had that conversation a lot where it's, okay, Marner's no longer in the fold. Who are the options? And right away, people go to Max Domi. People go to Matias Maccelli and not really think about William Nylander. But why not? You know, like why not have Nylander on that line? And you know, a guy who could be so dominant with the puck, right? Like Mitch Marner was a guy who had the most puck possession time on that line last year, right? Well, William Nylander can do a lot of the same things, right? Like he can be a super shifty guy. He can see the ice pretty well and move the puck and get it to Austin Matthews if need be. So it's something that I think we will probably get a look at for sure. And I think we'll have more consideration than in years past to have those two together. Now, what it does do, the opposite end of things is, you know, it doesn't lengthen your lineup, and the Maple Leafs want to lengthen their lineup a little bit. And, it kind of makes you think, well, what does the second line look like if that's the case? So, you know, you're going to have a second line of Michelli, Tavares, and Domi? Like, I don't know if that really looks good. Maybe Nyes doesn't play with Matthews after all, and maybe you're looking at a line of Nyes, Tavares, and Michelli perhaps, and then you got Domi, Nylander, and Matthews as a top line. You know, like maybe that's what it could look like. But there's a lot of different possibilities. Even Matthew Nyes, when he spoke last week, said, "Yeah, we're not too sure. It's you know, we've had a few different additions to the team. Not quite sure how it's all going to look just yet. Excited to get to camp and see how it all unfolds." And I think we're all in the same boat.
Yeah, no, I'm curious of the possibilities that they will try. I do know, there's going to be a bit of an adjustment, and I'm sure not everyone's going to agree with, you know, why are they putting XY here? Maybe they should consider this instead. That's what training camp's for. They're going to throw many things at the wall to see what will stick.
Yeah, Easton Cowan will probably get an opportunity to see what he can do in, you know, up in the top six like that. So the good thing is, with the way that they've constructed the bottom six of this roster, you don't necessarily have to think about, okay, well, we're going to want to play Matthews a lot in the defensive end of things, or we're going to want to play Tavares a lot in the defensive zone. You have a third and fourth line who's very capable of playing defensive zone minutes and getting those D-zone starts. So you don't have to necessarily always think about, okay, we have to make sure that there's some defensively capable players or 200-foot players on those lines. You can have a little bit more offense on those lines. Some guys who are more driven in the offensive zone, like a Max Domi, like a William Nylander. So that is one thing about the construction of the team. It makes it different, and it makes you, you know, a little less cautious, I suppose, when you're putting together your lines, making sure that there's, you know, defensive stalwarts everywhere just in case. Those guys you're hoping don't have to spend much time in the D zone anyway.
Exactly.
So, you know, it lessens that burden just a little bit. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, a former Leaf has retired. We'll tell you about that. And The Athletic put out their prospect ranking for the Maple Leafs. Where do they fall in terms of the top 32 of the NHL? We'll tell you that next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On